Welcome to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. I'm Gina.
And I'm Julia.
We are two ride-or-die best friends who are paving the path for what true, authentic relationships look like.
We're facing hardships head-on, having real, uncensored conversations, supporting each other's growth, and shining a light on true, raw healing.
We are navigating the world the best we know how.
Having a hell of a time doing it.
Laughing every step of the way.
Through the rain
and sunshine.
This is Canyon Culture.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you're not watching, you should be. I know we say this all the time, but right now, we've got winter and fall happening at the same time.
It's magic.
It's crazy to me, right? Because we moved here a little over a year ago now.
Yeah.
And so we've experienced all 4 seasons, right? But these 2 seasons are colliding.
So
we've got snow on the mountains behind us and beautiful yellow, a little bit of red, but mostly yellow trees.
Yeah, there's red over there.
Fall and winter at the same time. Welcome.
It's pretty special.
It's so crazy cool. So crazy cool to me. Anyway. One of the things that I thought we would talk about was just kind of our views on health.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we've both kind of been dealing with different health things lately.
Always. I feel like we are
It's
always.
true.
Well, why is it always? Because
we have so many people. Just the pure amount of people. Like we go places and, the kids are, I'm like, that's a lot of kids.
Well, what was it?
We birthed them all.
we were just recorded an episode and this man came and he's like, I'm so sorry, I want to take a picture. We're like, yeah, go for it. And we were chatting and I said, we have 10 kids between the two of us. And he's like, oh my gosh.
His jaw just dropped.
But I still am surprised that we get that response in Utah.
In Texas, I get it.
Yes.
In
anywhere
Utah,
else. But in Utah, I'm like, what? Like, are you surprised we don't have more? Like, I'm confused.
Right. So anyway, we're going to talk about just kind of our views on health. A little bit about our beliefs,
mm-hmm.
A little bit about how we handle things. I think a good starting place would be, you've mentioned a couple times about a functional medicine doctor that you see.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people may not know what that means. So
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit better of an explanation? What is a functional medicine doctor?
So his name is Jared and we love him so much. To the point where my kids get hurt or they get sad and they go, I want Jared. Like, it's like middle of the night and Thomas is like, I want Jared. And I'm like, me too, buddy. But, okay. So functional medicine doctor, they view your body as a whole. So your spirit, your emotions, your physical, your intellect, like every part of what makes you is viewed as a whole. So if your big toe throbs, he is not just going to look at the anatomy of your body. He's going to see what kind of emotions you've been going through, see what else is resonating in your body. And we are healing, looking at the whole picture, which
What a crazy concept.
like, it just seems it's so silly to do it any other way to me.
I think so too.
And that's where, so when it's not like you and I know both you and I were doing parenting and health the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found Jared and I was like, oh my gosh, you won't believe I found a doctor who actually fits with how you and I already do it, which was awesome.
Right.
And then it's obviously grown since then with our own research on things, and then what he's taught us. But it's been an awesome experience to have somebody who is knowledgeable about the anatomy. Like, that's the thing too, is
Right.
like, he is so intelligent with all of these areas that when we get to a point where it's beyond his scope, he's like, okay, we need a specialist for this. I've pinpointed this area. We need a specialist here.
Yes.
And then I can go see somebody else who specializes in that. I don't need to go see a general doctor.
Right.
Who's going to just look at the throbbing big toe.
Right. I feel like that's so different from a lot of society. I think that there's a huge portion of society that is moving this way now.
Yeah.
But so much of it has been separated. We go to different doctors for our mental health, different doctors for our physical health, different doctors for our emotional health. When God created us as a whole person, every part of us is who we are. And so it should be viewed like that.
Yeah. I had an experience. So Jared is also a chiropractor. And he's like a specialist chiropractor. So I have, because of training, I have specific injuries that pop up and certain things that really affect me. And so I remember I scheduled an appointment, and getting in to see him is really difficult because he's very popular. And so I just had a chiropractor visit. I only had 15 minutes. So I was like, I am not going to be able to do any emotional work. We're just going for chiropractic.
Right.
And he goes to fix one of my hips, does a funky thing. And so he goes to fix it. And he was just like, you've got a lot of anger in your body. And since he knows every part of me,
Right.
like there's no hiding from him.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, we don't have time for that. We have so many things. My neck, my earlobes, my shoulders, my hips, my knees, my toes, everything hurts. We need to fix that. And he's just like, I can't adjust this until we clear out the emotional
Because
energy.
it literally won't move. I've
Mm-hmm.
had a similar experience with a different doctor who was trying to adjust something that literally wouldn't move until we emotionally cleared what was there. And then he went to adjust it again and it moved.
So how long have we been doing it? And that stuff still blows my mind.
Still, all the time.
Or I'll go in to see Jared and I'm like, we are not talking about that. And he's like, I feel like we need to talk about something in this area. And I was like, nope, I already said we're not talking about it.
I like when they do the muscle testing and I'm like, you don't know me. Except they do. Except you're right.
Exactly. It's like, I'm going to take the direction this way. And he's like, but reality is over here. So we're going to go that way. What I do love though, is it creates this really intimate relationship because he speaks like, because the thing is he's a religious person too. So he can speak about God and he can speak about things that he knows mean something to me.
Right.
And are a big part of it. Right. He's like, so what is your, like, we're dealing with something. He's like, well, like, what is your really, like, how are you talking to God about it? I'm like, I may or may not have talking to him about this because I don't want to. And he's like,
listen,
well,
I'm really mad at him right now. So we're not speaking.
we're on speaking terms.
He's like, that explains a lot.
Right. But it's really interesting. And I think that for kids going through trauma like ours have,
Right.
it's well, I mean, to anybody who's gone through trauma,
Mm-hmm.
Something that I'm learning, and I'm not gonna have any of the medical terminology because
We're just
I don't
we're
learn
moms.
I don't learn that way.
We're not scientists.
My sister is incredible with that. She can retain all of this information and all the little nitty gritty
She's
stuff.
so good at it.
She's so good at it. And I walk away, I'm going, that felt great. That feels amazing. I agree with all that. Right? Like I'm all feels.
I
and
saw it
she's-
work, so I believe you.
And it's not, anyway. So I was listening to a podcast and I have read books and I've done other things and this collective knowledge of what narcissistic abuse does to your brain, it's brain damage. It literally is brain damage.
Yeah.
And it affects a part of your brain that things like talk therapy can't touch.
Right.
So different kinds of energy work, different kinds of modalities of how to clear out that trauma, you can't do through talk therapy.
Mhm.
You have to do it another way, which is great. In fact, a lot of times it makes it worse because you're talking about it and reliving it without healing it.
Right.
So where it's the opposite with Jared, you go in and you muscle test.
Mhm.
And he's like, okay, so I had to take Thomas in and he goes in. And a lot of times we're carrying other people's energies and traumas, which I'm like,
Yes.
oh, cool.
Yes.
So my kids a lot of time will be carrying my stuff.
Right.
And I hate that, but it's what it is. So I take Thomas in and he's like, okay, so he's muscle testing. So each of our organs carries an emotion. So
Mhm.
as he muscle tests a different organ, when he finds out, oh, this one's weak, so that's where we've got an emotion. So he was muscle testing Thomas, and whichever organ holds fear, he's like, what are you afraid of? And then he'll test, is it my fear or someone else's? And then
Mhm.
he goes through the list of people in Thomas's life, and of course it was my fear. And
Mm.
just earlier that day I was talking to God and I was like, I don't know how you expect me to parent all 4 of these kids on my own.
Mhm.
I am not well equipped. This
While
is too
at the
hard.
same time, I'm still trying to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I had that conversation with God before we even went to
Mhm.
this appointment. And then Thomas is carrying this fear. And Jared's figuring out through muscle testing that it's fear of me parenting these kids by myself.
Mm.
Said 0 things to Jared about it. 0.
And 0 things to Thomas about it.
0
It's not
things to-
something you're talking to your 6-year-old about.
So Thomas, me and God had this conversation today.
Right. Right.
And so he was carrying that. And so we were able to clear that out for him. And that's the kind of thing that I'm still just amazed.
Mhm.
I can't hide anything from him. And he works so closely with God and he works so closely with understanding and we have a connection. Like we are friends. He may not see that way. We're friends. He's
He
coming
doesn't
to
know, but we're like this.
we're tight. But that's the thing is my kids love him and they want to see him when stuff's going wrong. But neither Thomas nor I needed to discuss what we were going through for him to clear out that energy,
Mhm.
replace it with positive, rewrite a story that's been written
Mm.
with good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always take 100% the first time, or some new things come up, right? So it's not like this is a magic thing where we go and all of a sudden I'm not traumatized anymore. But
I'd pay a lot of money if it was, though.
right.
Just saying.
But no, there was even that same scenario, that same appointment. I had an experience where I had to talk to the police. So I was extremely triggered by this conversation. And it, like, I've had a couple of panic attacks in my life. And this one was so bad, I had to call somebody. I was like, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And somebody had to talk me down. You were also having a panic attack, so you weren't there for me for that one.
At the same time.
So I had this friend, she's like, lay down, and she had to walk me through a breathing exercise, and it shook me for a while. And that was over a month ago. And he was like, there's this experience that you went through, and he's telling me. And I was just like, he's like, that one really rocked you. And I was like, uh-huh. And he's like, you still got some residual stuff. I was like, get rid of it. Let's go.
Get it off me.
So what I'm getting, the point of all of that is just to say, I don't have to relive things. I don't have to discuss it with him. He can say, he can pinpoint things. We clear it out. We move on. So how many times have I called you going, I feel so much lighter. And I didn't, and like, so we're doing such quick healing with that kind of.
And I love that, because that's so different from talk therapy. And we're not saying that talk therapy doesn't have its place.
It has, just like modern medicine, always, everything has a time and place.
Right. But a lot of times, and that's what I have experienced personally, is going through traumatic things. Talk therapy is literally having me relive it. And I walk out of that office feeling completely broken and bawling my eyes out. I feel worse than when I walked into that office. And this is completely different, because we're going in and we're not reliving it at all, but we're getting rid of the residual feelings and emotions that our bodies are holding on to, whether consciously or subconsciously.
And I think that's where a lot of the world is starting to see. They're starting to see that your trauma resonates in your body. It lingers in your body.
Yes.
We are having physical reactions to trauma we had years ago, whether that's not being able to calm down so much that you have to get in a bikini and lay in 19-degree weather in the snow.
Hypothetically speaking.
That I know anybody who's had to do that.
We've never seen anyone do that.
Or for me, a lot of times it's like, I just feel like I have static under my skin, right? Like I'm having a physical reaction to trauma that's been inside or that's been in my past. So to be able to clear that out and to feel lighter and actually feel healed and actually feel like we can move on is huge. And especially when you have kids involved, because they can't even articulate. And so for being able to go about this on an energetic level, but again, it's always the kind of thing where I come in with a kid has a rash. Thomas had a rash in his crotch area for years. And we figured out that he was allergic to certain dyes and that he's got different, right? So like we're able to go to Jared for everything. Chiropractics, physical ailments, and emotional ailments. And he's looking at our body as a whole.
Right.
And I love that we can do that at home too. We have the power of that. Jared is not the only way we heal.
Right.
That you and I, as we've parented our kids, we've done a lot of that stuff anyway.
He's taught us how to do that in our own homes. Yeah. And I say us, I have not gotten to see him myself.
You should share share that story.
So we did. So I think we were still living with you.
You were still visiting.
Right.
You still hadn't decided to move yet.
We were here, and you had an appointment with him. And I have heard you would Marco Polo me after your appointments and tell me how they went, how much better you felt, things that you worked through, things that you let go of, right? And so you had an appointment when we came here to visit, and I was like, I'm going.
I'll sit in the corner.
I'm going. I will sit in the corner. I won't say anything. Like, I'll just be I won't say anything at all, right?
Yeah.
And so we get there, and the receptionist, tells me like it's fine if you go in and and you sit in the corner. He can't do anything with you or help you because you're not a patient. And I was like, totally fine. I totally get that.
She even said he might ask you to leave.
Yeah. He might ask you to leave. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. No problem. And so we go in the room, and you are sitting on the chiropractic table, and I'm sitting in a chair in the corner, and he starts working with you, and he stops because my energy is apparently screaming. And so he pulls me, he tells you to scoot over, and tells me to come sit on the table with you. And I'm like, okay, yes, sir. Like, okay. And I sit down. I've never met this man before in my life. He knows nothing about me. I am not a patient of his, right? I sit down on the table, and he looks me in the eyes, and he goes, "You've been defiled." And I just...
You giggled. You
I
giggled.
was like, what? What? He could tell just...
No, I think he asked a question. He's like, how long ago was the last time you've been defiled?
Yeah.
It was something like that. It wasn't like this weird, like he wasn't being like, look at me, I'm so awesome. He
Right.
was, because he's very humble. But he was just like, when was the last time you've been defiled?
Right.
Not have you been? Is there a chance you've been? When was the last time?
No. Yeah. He knew. And I was still carrying the weight of that and the guilt of that, right?
Mhm.
And so we had to go through clearing that out so that the room was calm enough to be able to work with you.
But the rest of the appointment, you sat next. So I think at the beginning he was trying to like check our relationship together because
Yes.
he had us touch legs and look specific eyes because there's a different connection when you do
Yes.
that. So he did that, and then he was like, "Okay, Gina, sit over there." Like he like dismissed
He's
me.
like, stop touching. Like, we got to deal with this.
There's too much defilement in one relationship that neither of you defiled each other with.
Yes.
But
yeah, and so he walked me through releasing those things and what that looked like. I'm trying to remember really
Mhm.
clearly what that looked like. It looked like some tapping. He had
Mm-hmm.
me tapping on certain parts, and he also tapped on certain parts.
Yep.
And he had me repeat some things after him, releasing those things.
Releases and affirmations.
And then he had me, and then I sat up, and he had me repeat, I will never let a man defile me again. And I said it. And he goes, nope. And we went back and did more tapping.
Because I love that when I say it, and he goes, yeah, you didn't feel that one.
No.
And I was like, no, I didn't.
So we went back. We did more tapping. We did more releases. I sat up again. And I said, I will never let a man defile me again. And you could even hear it in my voice that
Yeah.
it was different. It was
Mhm.
completely different that time.
So powerful.
So
But we're able to
powerful.
take that kind of idea and apply it. Well, we have already, but apply it with our kids.
Right.
So there's a lot of life coaching. A lot of our health and a lot of walking our kids through stuff is life coaching.
Yes.
So right now with the stuff that Thomas is going through with the possibility of him having oppositional defiance disorder is validating that he has emotions.
Right.
A lot of times we're like, knock it off, stop feeling that way. That's a lot of parenting.
Right. A lot of times as parents, and we've done it too.
Absolutely.
We're just reacting to their behavior because it's inconveniencing us, because it's in front of other people,
I was like,
whatever the reason.
It's embarrassing.
Right. There's lots of reasons. But ultimately underneath it all, they are not being little assholes on purpose.
Mhm. What does Jared
9
say?
out
He
of 10
said,
times.
feelings are neither right nor wrong, neither good nor bad,
Mhm.
just information of needs being unmet.
Yes.
So when our kids are having an emotion,
Mhm.
we go, what's being unmet?
Right.
Where are we missing?
Mhm.
And so that does cross over with more medical stuff too, right? We're looking at, okay, you're sick. I talk to my kids. I'm like, why do you think that you got sick? And the kid's like, well, I ate a lot of crap the other day. And I wasn't sleeping very well. I'm like, there you go.
Right.
But that's the thing is I want to take them back to the root. We have this experience that we're having that's negative. Where did that start?
Right.
So that I know that if I eat a sleeve of Oreos, I am not going to feel well. And so if I eat that sleeve of Oreos, I have no one to blame but myself.
Right.
So I want to give my kids that same power because they're going to go out in the world. So if I'm teaching them to eat healthy and I offer them 0 opportunities and I'm so strict with what they eat, you know what they're going to do when they go out in the world?
They're going to binge.
They're going to binge and they're going to be like, this is great. And then they're going to become very unhealthy. There's a chance they can become very unhealthy kids.
Right.
But if I teach them, I'm going, there's a time and a place for yummy food because that
Absolutely.
feeds your soul.
Mhm.
Oreos are super yummy and make me very happy.
I still think they have crack in them, but
Absolutely. Because right now my thing is I take an Oreo and I scoop a bunch of peanut butter on it.
oh my God.
It's so good.
That's so hot.
It's so freaking good. But I do feel like there is crack in it because I'll eat a lot of it. But that's the thing is I want my kids to understand that your actions have a consequence, whether it's good or bad.
Yes.
And I'm going to teach you about it. So you're going to eat like crap. You're going to feel like crap.
Right.
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do.
Mhm.
But if you're going to get sick, sometimes we just get sick, but sometimes it's because we make choices that weaken our immune systems. So I teach my kids, how do you strengthen your immune system? And it comes with eating healthy,
Mhm.
sleeping well, and taking care of your mental health.
Yeah.
So I don't know, there's just a lot of things that having this idea of viewing our bodies as a whole and teaching our kids empowers them.
Yes.
So when they have big emotions or they don't feel well, they can go, I can do something different to not be in this situation again.
So I have a good example. My oldest is 16. and she's 16, right? So we're dealing with driver's license right now, getting her driver's license. We're having a lot of discussions about what she wants to do after high school and college and all these things. And all of that is really stressful for her, right? Especially when you're 16 and
Yeah.
you're so close to that independence and adulthood. And she was getting a lot of headaches. And we have the option of, well, just take some Advil, right? Just take some ibuprofen, right? But she's having enough headaches where I was like, what's going on? Like, let's get down to the root cause of what's going on. Like, how are you feeling? How are you sleeping? How are you eating, right? She's not sleeping super great. She's skipping meals. She's feeling really stressed about these certain things.
Yeah.
With driver's license and college and what happens when I turn 18. And so being able to walk her through those things and talk through the stresses of that and teach her how to handle those stresses, because we can't eliminate them. We're always going to have stress in our lives, but teaching her how to handle stress has significantly reduced her headaches.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But that's how empowering is that for her? And I'm assuming she's not going to know the difference because she's had you as her mom the whole time. But for me, I've loved watching my kids. So one of my boys gets croup. Anytime there's a sickness, he gets croup, and is he 11? I think he's 11.
Yeah,
he's 11. It's fine. And for an 11-year-old to still get croup is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But since he was getting croup at 2, we figured out how his bodies would respond to certain remedies to help him get through it. And so we figured out, it took us a year, and he was getting sick a lot. So we had lots of opportunity, but I went to the hospital one time for that croup, and I was like, I will never do this again. Not because I will never take my kids to the hospital, but I was like, this experience was not pleasant. I never want to get this scary with my kid not breathing that I have to go to a hospital.
Right.
And so I did everything in my power to try and do as much as I could at home. And so by the time he was 4, I remember he come to me, he's like, I'm feeling croupy. Can you get my shower ready while I go sit outside in the cold?
Aww.
Or can you wrap me in that special blanket that I really like so I can sit outside? So he knew the regimen he needed to get his body to respond well to this virus that he had. And I was just like, how empowering is he's over there not saying, I don't feel good, fix it, going, I'm going to need this and this and this. Can you help me? I'm like, you're freaking 4.
I love that. We are not raising man-childs. We are not raising.
There's not going to be a man cold in my house.
That's a freaking loot.
You're welcome, wives.
You're so welcome. I think that's one of the things that I'm really proud that I love most about just how we handle health is that we're not doing all of this for our kids. We're teaching them. We're having them do it. We're empowering them so they're going to be able to do this when they are not in our homes anymore.
Right. And again, I think there's a time and place for modern medicine.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have definitely leaned on modern medicine the more that I'm a single mom, because a lot of times the home remedies take more time and I don't have that.
Right.
So I would never, I'd get headaches, not super often, but when I did, I would just deal with it. I'd go rest. I'd do these things because I had the ability. And now I'm like, well, bills got to get paid. So I'm going to take some Advil. So I've taken more Advil the last couple of years than I have my whole life. But
absolutely.
I know what I'm doing.
Time and place.
There's a time and place.
I'm super thankful that my business is completely online, but I'm not able to take a day off right now, ever. And so there was last year I got really sick back in October.
Yeah.
And I was running 102 fever, popping, 3 or 4 Advil and half an energy drink so that I could make it through work with 102 fever. So there's a time and place for everything.
Absolutely. But educating our kids so that they can make that choice, so that they're not all of a sudden in their 40s going, why am I so sick?
Right.
Or unable to manage and deal with stress, or unable to deal with transitions. We are looking at the body as a whole and going, the better you take care of your mental health now. So we had a very horrible experience last year where a neighbor had committed suicide, and it shook the whole neighborhood, and it still does.
It really did. You could literally just feel the energy of the whole neighborhood was so somber.
Well, we
hadn't even been there that long at that point.
Yeah. But you felt it?
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's just a testament to how awesome of a neighborhood we have, how close we are.
Right.
That loss was really awful. And I took that opportunity to express to my kids, and not that this would have saved this man's life, because I don't know the details enough about any of that.
Right.
But I was just going, a lot of times I knew there was depression involved, and I was like, if you can learn how to get ahead of depression and try and find ways to manage around, through, with it, all of those things, then when you need intervention, you've done so much work that you might have a more isolated situation going, I
Right.
need meds and they need to do this exact thing for me because I'm doing all of
Mhm.
these other things. So
Right.
we just took that opportunity to work on mental health, and that there is a time and a place for meds.
Right.
There's also a time and a place all the time to work on your mental health. There's
Mhm.
always, depression is a thing, and there needs to be interventions all the time. What that looks like for you depends on how you want to run it.
Right.
So this isn't me preaching that. It's just more of, as at a young age, work through them, don't
Right.
numb.
And,
And that's what it
being
is.
so in tune with your own body as a whole that you know the second that something is off, so you are intervening before there's
Mhm.
huge problems.
Yeah. I think that could really help minimize the effects of these awful things of depression and anxiety.
Yes.
It may still result in heavy interventions,
Right.
but what if it doesn't?
Hmm.
Or what if it prolongs the healthiness? I don't know. I want to make sure that I'm really clear that I'm not preaching that certain things are going to fix certain things.
Right. Absolutely.
But
There's,
I want
like
to
we
empower
said,
my kids to know that there's a good chance you can avoid a lot of heartbreak and a lot of pain and suffering
right.
if you understand how to care for your body as a whole.
Right. And that's, I love what you said. That's beautiful. There's a time and a place for all of it. And so for me personally, I have been on depression meds before.
Okay.
And so getting to that point, I knew that I wasn't doing well. And when I got to the point where I could not force myself to get out of bed, I could not force myself to shower, I could not force myself to take care of myself, I knew that at that point I did need to be on meds.
Right.
And it was 4-season.
Yeah.
And basically what the meds did was they were able to take the edge off so I could get out of bed, so
Yeah.
that I could shower, so that I could feed myself, so that I could feed my kids. And once I had been doing that long enough, then I slowly started weaning off of them, under a doctor's supervision and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I was able to slowly wean off of them and get back to homeostasis,
Yeah.
I guess. So like we said, time and place for everything.
Yep.
I am not against any kind of modern medical. I'm so thankful that God has created so many amazing, smart doctors and surgeons and
Yeah.
psychiatrists. And I'm so thankful that they're there. I just think there's so much that can be done before there's a huge issue, but we need to be in tune with our body as a whole.
Well, I think for me, this all started when I was pregnant and really learning how to dig into that motherly intuition, how to deal with pregnancy and labor and
Right.
newborn and all the things, because unfortunately each child does not come with a user manual.
No.
So you have to figure it out for yourself, but learning how to tap into that intuition, which is something that God gave me and gave you. All of us have that intuition. And the more that I feel like we are in this world that is so loud and numbing, we don't have that connection anymore. And so the more that I teach my kids to come into that space of getting in tune with your own body,
Yes.
your own mind, your own thoughts, your own feeling, so that you can tell when things are off. I just feel like that's going to set them up for success more than anything. And it's going to help them be able to manage things that come their way that they have no control over a lot better.
Absolutely.
So I feel that I don't know how or what got me to that point, but I'm grateful that I have that perspective, because that's all my kids know.
Right.
Right? Because like I know this. Never mind. That's
Say it. Say it. Say
the
it.
guy that I was dating for my birthday got me easy cheese, like cheese in a can.
Oh.
And my kids are like, what is this? Like, they had never tried it before. Like, there's just, right, like, as far as health goes, they have no clue what certain foods are. Because I'm like, I said something about Velveeta. Like, what's Velveeta? I was like, exactly.
One of my kids was like, can we go to Old McDonald's? And I'm like, and I feel really good about my job right now. Doing a good job.
When the kids first started spending time with their dad after the divorce, he wanted to be Disneyland dad, so he'd take him out to like fast food and stuff like that. And Russell refused to eat. He's like, this is fake food. Like, it is fake food.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I like this conversation because I feel like I a lot of times get busy with just life, right? And I feel like right now I'm in autopilot and I want to get back to with parenting intentionally, living intentionally, being Gina intentionally, and working intentionally. I want my life to be intentional. I don't want to be an autopilot. And this, I think that's kind of what taking care of your health like that is. It's living intentionally. It's going, I'm getting in tune with my body, my spirit, my mind.
Right. And we are intentionally taking care of each part of our body every single day when there's not a problem, when nothing is off, right? It is being proactive about each part of our body.
And that's super important. Okay. So what would you, so we both have had several of our babies at home.
Yep.
I would say we're like hippies, but not in the like we're stoned all the time kind of hippies, just like the Mother Nature, Earth. She has everything we need to heal our bodies. Like we've had our phases where we're really heavy into that.
Right.
But so what is like maybe the weirdest hippie healthcare, whatever, I don't even know what to call it. What is the weirdest thing you think you've ever done?
Oh man. I don't feel like any of it's weird, but I know what you're getting at.
Yes.
I get the question by society.
Like if you were in a group of people and you mentioned this and people go,
probably encapsulating my placenta multiple times, different ones, different ones.
So
for sure. And I almost did have to eat a piece of it raw.
Why? Oh, because you were bleeding out.
Yeah, when I miscarried Josiah.
Oh yeah.
She was like, "Do you have a piece to stick in your mouth?" And I was like, I don't know if I can.
Oh my gosh.
What about you?
Well, I miscommunication with my midwife. Huge argument with my ex about encapsulating my placenta. So I currently have my placenta encapsulated in my freezer. By the way, it's going to be great when I'm in menopause.
That's what I've heard.
So we're going to do that. But that same lady took the umbilical cord and made an ornament out of it. So I have an umbilical cord ornament.
Cute. I like that.
It's a heart.
Oh, whose is it?
Adam's?
If you look at it, will you be able to tell?
This vein right here. Adam or Carter? I think it was, I don't know. I don't remember.
Can you look at the rings and tell the age or something?
She took the placenta and the umbilical cord and she made an imprint on it. So it looks like, what do they call it? Like
the tree of life.
The tree of life.
Yes.
Yeah. So she did that too. So I do have a tree imprint thing.
I love it.
So I think stuff like that really freaks people out.
I'm surprised it's not like hanging on a wall somewhere.
Oh my gosh, I should. Well, I mean, it's on the tree every year when I put the placenta heart up.
Here's the placenta ornament on the Christmas tree.
The dog's got it. The dog's got it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's end with gratitude.
Okay.
I am really grateful that I have a healthy body and all of my kids have a healthy body, and that God gives us the wisdom to work through certain things and the grace, because a lot of it is really, really hard emotional stuff to work through. Healing sucks sometimes. Super sucks sometimes.
Amen.
And so I'm thankful that God gives the grace to be able to walk through that, to take breaks from it, and to get back in it.
Yeah. I am grateful that I've had people in my life who have been examples of how to do all of this stuff. I feel like I was not a typical first-time mom because I had enough people and enough experience with kids that I wasn't hyper sensitive or scared about things.
Yeah.
And I understood like germs. You know what I mean?
Right.
So as my kids are licking the ground, I'm like, it's fine.
Building their immune system.
Well, I don't feel like I was a stressful mom, and I'm so grateful that I didn't have to do that, and that I had people to guide and be examples and to educate me, so that I feel like the level of health that my kids have as a whole, mentally, physically, and spiritually, is something that I can provide for them.
Absolutely.
And I'm super grateful that we have that.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. Well, until next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Unfiltered Summit Sisters.
Come join us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to get a sneak peek into our lives.
It's beautiful, chaotic, crazy, and fun.
What else would you expect raising 10 kids?
All the links you need are in the show notes.
See you next week.